12 inches of snow out here. Oh, we had a special delivery last week. We got some work to do. All right, we are out here in the newly created greenhouse. It's about 20 degrees outside and almost 60 in here, and man, is it nice to be in here. So I've got some work to do in here to get ready for maple syrup. This year we're going to be doing a huge production. I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out or what we're going to get, but we're going to try to do process as much sap as we possibly can harvest off this property with the resources that we have with a very low budget. So I'm looking ahead at the weather, and I'm seeing some days where it's just starting to get into that sweet spot for maple sap. So what happens is, if you're not familiar with the process, in the springtime in the northern states, you get this sap run period, usually late February through March, just depending on where you're at in the country. The sap really is going to run best when it's nice and warm during the day. So we're going to get some days probably in the 40s, sunny. Those are good conditions during the day. But then at nighttime it drops below freezing, so we get down into the 20s or something like that, maybe upper 20s, mid 20s. That's a great sap run. So that forces that sap to move in that tree, and then that's when you get your harvest to take place. Next week I'm seeing some days where it's breaking up into the 30s, upper 30s, and it's down below freezing at night. We might start to get some sap run depending on the conditions. There's also barometric pressures and things. If there's cloudy days, storm systems coming in, rain and other things that can affect the sap run as well. I'm not going to get too much into that, but we're getting ready to tap some trees. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us and some planning to do. So today I'm going to take you through the planning of our process, what we're going to use and how we're going to do this, as well as the design of our firebox and our evaporation system. So I have this nice big sap pan behind me here. This was actually given to me by my mother and my stepfather, who do a big maple syrup operation up in the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. They've upgraded all their equipment this year, and they donated this to us to start our operation here. And what a blessing. These things can get expensive, and this is a huge jump start for us. So thank you to them. But we're going to get started with this. So what I need to do is build a firebox to go underneath this pan. Everything's going to get stationed right back here by the cement panels that I have put in place in the greenhouse. Keep this away from our combustible surfaces, our wood and things like that. And then we're going to vent it out there. So I'm going to set up our sap evaporator in this area. You also see behind me I've got a lot of buckets of things. So let me take you through what I have and how we're going to do this process this year. All right, so I've gone over most of this already, so I'll jump through the process very quickly. But the first step is tapping the trees. I'm going to be using these plastic taps. These are the most economical way to tap a lot of trees. I will be updating to stainless steel throughout the years, but so I got to start somewhere. I do have a few stainless steel taps I'll be using also, but mostly these black ones. I've got about 150 of these, and I've got like 25 of these blue ones. Those taps will connect to this 5/16 sap tubing, and this will run from the taps down into our collection buckets. Thanks to a lot of viewer suggestions, I've been able to collect quite a few buckets. My mom was able to donate some from their operation that they're not using this year, as well as I've gone to local grocery stores and restaurants and just kept asking, and finally found a bakery that's willing to just keep letting me know every week when they have more. I think I have almost 60 here, as well as I'm saving some milk jugs. I also have some of the aluminum buckets, some of the water jugs, and some of the smaller water jugs there as well. So be using a plethora of different devices to collect, but essentially the lids will get a small hole drilled on them where the sap line will go into. These will be stationed at the bottom of the trees. Some of the milk jugs, I actually tie them to the tree, wrap rope around and tie them to the tree, and then just usually drill a small hole in the upper part of the jug here somewhere. The lids tend to crack, so I like to drill in the plastic here. Okay, next step in the process, I'll be using the 55-gallon drum on the bucket of my tractor, taking that back into the woods, filling it up and collecting all the sap in that, and bringing it up into the IBC tote for overflow if I need to. I'll be dumping this straight into my pan to start evaporating. But if I need to overflow, I've got this IBC tote. I think it's 255 gallons or somewhere close to that. That IBC tote is going to be stationed somewhere back here on a platform that I have to build yet and enclose, and be fed into the evaporator through this back wall here through some tubing. Okay, so from there it will come into the evaporator pan here, which will be sitting on a firebox. The firebox will be made out of cinder blocks. That's my plan as of right now. I may try to invest in some fire brick if I can afford it. I don't know yet. Otherwise, I do realize that the cinder blocks will deteriorate this year with the heat, and I may have to replace them next year. But thankfully, cinder blocks are only $1 a piece, so I might spend 30 bucks on them. The firebox is going to go back here and be vented out of the cement board somewhere back here. I haven't figured out exactly what pipe and fittings I have. It will go out, and then the smokestack will run up above the roof of the greenhouse. So hopefully you don't get any ash or hots or sparks or anything to land on the plastic and burn a hole in it. This is going to be tricky to do in here with all the plastic, obviously, and the heat and the sap and the moisture. So we'll take you along and see how well it works, but this is the best place I have to do this. So you can see that the evaporator pan actually has a valve on the back of it, and that drains out of the fitting there. So what you do is you tilt this pan just a little bit back towards that corner, and the heavier, more concentrated sugar, as the sap evaporates all the water out of it, you get more concentrated sugar levels. That sap and the more closer to maple syrup actually kind of migrates to that end and towards that nozzle, and then you drain that off like every night or twice a day or however fast you're boiling, and then you finish that off into maple syrup inside. So I actually bought a hydrometer this year. In the past I've just used the temperature method. So you fill the stainless steel little cylinder up here with your concentrated sap, and then you can measure it out with this tool in the middle here. It tells you the sugar content, and you can see whether you're getting close to your desired levels. So this gives you a better, more accurate syrup that's a little thicker, and you have less issues with it being runny and not quite ready yet. We'll also be using several filter methods. This is one synthetic filter that we have. I may purchase a second or third one of these. We'll do a pre-filter out here before we, maybe right off the tap there, we'll filter it into stainless steel containers or pots. And then from there it will get turned into the final syrup, and then I may do one final filter through these again. We want to make sure we have any ash or debris or anything that came in from the sap filtered out. And so this is going to be my method this year. I've used coffee filters and other types of filters, but for the volume we have, we need to do something bigger. So once we have the final syrup done and filtered, I'm going to use one of those coffee warmers, like 100-cup coffee warmers with the little taps on them. That's where all the final syrup is going to go and be stored to keep warm as we get our bottles prepared. I've already showed you the bottles we're going to use. Those will be all sanitized, and then we'll be using that coffee carafe or coffee warmer to fill those bottles up, and everything will be nice and sanitized and kept at a good temperature. And then we'll seal those out, and those will be labeled and ready to hopefully send to you guys or local farm markets and other things that we're going to sell throughout the year, and as well as have our own stock of good maple syrup. So what we need to do today is get this evaporator built. So let's take some measurements here, take a trip up to Home Depot and grab some supplies, and see what we need to get started. So this pan, it looks like it was kind of a custom design. I don't know exactly how this was intended to be set up, but my plan is to build a cinder block box that will come right up to underneath these rails, and that's where it will rest. So this part of the box is actually going to be down into the firebox. So the walls will come up and rest right under here, as well as on the front. And I'm not sure what these are for. It looks like they almost would hold like a fire brick or something to help keep the warmth in. I may see what we can find at the home store, and maybe some just maybe some just concrete blocks or some patio stones or something to sit in there to hold some of that, reflect some of that heat back in and keep this thing boiling. I think I've got enough strength here to support all the weight with these pieces of metal that run up on the edges. That should give me a good strength there. And these look like they're welded on, so that should be strong enough to hold up that amount of weight, I would hope. I have another kind of source of scrounged materials here. I've got a few of these pieces of double or even triple wall stovepipe, some converters here from like single wall, and another transition piece back there. That may help me get started with some of my stovepipe needs. I also have some more I'll show you. So in the back corner of the garage here, I have a little stove I picked up last year that I was intending to put in the garage and never did. And it had some single wall stovepipe that came with it, as well as like a makeshift wall adapter, which looks like it might have been an old heating duct, but this is what they used for years. And it's got some stovepipe and a few elbows. So I think I'll be good to reuse most of this. That's going to get converted into a waste oil burner, maybe to heat the greenhouse next year. All right, let's see what we got. A whole lot of cinder blocks. Got some cement board. Might use that on the front of the evaporator. Got some concrete and some sand. Help kind of glue things together. A lot of regular cinder blocks. And then I've got these flat blocks that are about 2 inches thick. And those will go on top. So let's get some of these put in here and kind of set this in place, and let's see what it looks like. Well, this is kind of the mock-up. This is the plan. Of course, it will be higher, and I'm actually going to dig down a little bit below it there, so we've got a better handle on ashes and ash removal. And I'll lay some cinder blocks on the side here to get airflow underneath. And I've got an idea for a kind of a DIY rack to go in there, wood rack. So we've got a lot of work to do. Got to leveling out the ground and mixing some cement together and things. But I think this is a pretty good start to the concept. I also need to figure out this piping here. It doesn't quite extend far enough past the cinder block there for me to make it go out there. So I might need to unscrew that and put a new valve on of some sort. All in all, I think this is going to work. Put a lot of sap in that pan. Not sure if that valve holds water or not. We'll have to find out. It got late on me here. We had a late trip to Home Depot. That's our closest kind of home improvement store. And guys there were pretty nice. They helped me load up all the cinder blocks and everything with the forklift, and that makes it a lot easier. So I did a stove very similar to this design with these cinder blocks last year, a smaller version, a kind of rocket stove idea. If you're interested in checking that video out, I'll put a link up in the card system there, up in the upper right hand corner of your screen, and you can check that out. I learned a lot from that design. It worked really well, but I couldn't keep that fire going very long with the little sticks. So this will be a lot better. I can put some big logs in here, get this thing roaring. I do know that the cinder blocks aren't going to last that long. They do have, the heat will crack them. I'm going to try to reinforce them with some cement and get some things. I may put fire bricks on the inside. I haven't decided yet with cost and things. So this is the plan for the DIY cinder block evaporator this year. What do you guys think? I took you guys along on the greenhouse planning and putting that together, and man, I had a lot of great suggestions. A lot of you guys saved me a lot of time and a lot of money with some of the suggestions you had. So what do you think of this? I'd love to hear from you guys. Thumbs up on the video. As always, guys, reach down, tap thumbs up. And if this is your first time visiting the SSL Family Dad channel, I'd love to have you guys subscribe. Hit the subscribe button down below as well as the bell, and that'll link you up to tag along for all the maple syrup fun that we're about to have here coming up soon. So I can't wait to take you guys along, and I can't wait to make some syrup, man. That first taste is going to be amazing. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.